Hello, I'm Erwin Haas with the Libertarian Party of West Michigan. This is our outreach program where we do interviews, talks, get in front of a camera and talk to each other and to others about libertarian topics. We call it the open mic program of the Libertarian Party of West Michigan. We meet approximately once a month here at the studios of KWTV. It's out on Clyde Park. If you are interested or have questions, please visit our website, which is lpwm.org, and that'll tell you when the programs will be filmed, the format for these things, and when they will be filmed will be shown on public access television, which shows basically all over Kent County. Tonight we're going to be doing a topic of money, capitalism, socialism, and the Fed. And I think you'll find that we've got some pretty good experts on these topics here tonight. The format is such that there's two people up here in front of the camera. One is putatively the host, the other one the guest, although the roles can change at any moment. So the guest can start asking all sorts of embarrassing questions. And then in the studio audience, there are people who get excited about the topic, and if they get perturbed enough, they can indicate that they want to get in front of the camera. They will replace somebody after some sort of a decent interval, maybe a minute or two, and then the conversation continues with the new host or guest. It's quite civilized, and it's a lot of fun. And if you have any interest at all, please feel free to come out to one of our meetings. Today, I wanted to talk about money, capitalism, socialism, the Fed. It turns out that this is within a week or so of the time when Greece seemed to have gone under. And so it seems to be quite timely to be talking about banking and money and what this all means. I wanted to start off at least somewhat talking about money with two little stories that have been in my family for almost 100 years. My parents were children of Bavarian farmers, and they underwent the inflation in 1922. Now, it turns out that the Germans thought that they could escape some of this burden of reparation payments by inflating their currency. And they also thought that they could work their way out of it by not working, by going on strike. It was a rather stupid time. And so the Germans inflated their currency. They kept on printing more and more and more of the marks. And pretty soon it became ridiculous, and everybody knows the picture where they were, stamping $1 million with 3 more zeros, just so that they could keep up with the inflation of the currency, which went on, hundreds and thousands of percent a day. And so you had to get your pay 2 or 3 times a day in order to make a living. Times, while the inflation was moderate to severe, were pretty good. You may be surprised how well people do with inflation. It was only in the last few weeks that real misery set in. That was at a time when the inflation was going up at 1,000% a day. And so it was really very difficult for people to keep up with the constant changing prices and the minute-to-minute alterations in their life and what they were doing for work. My grandfather made a mortgage in gold Denmark in 1894. It was a 50-year mortgage. He went into the nearby city and sold a crate of eggs one day. He looked at all the money he got and walked across the street to the bank and paid off his mortgage. A week later, had he sold a single egg, he could have done the same thing, because the single egg was worth as much as the entire crate had been the week before. And that was wonderful, because he now owned his property free and clear, right? Well, in 1923, the German government brought in the Reimark, which was based on the acreage, square hectares or something, of the German soil. And so you couldn't change the quantity of money. And then they went back and found all of those debts that had been paid off with inflated currency and refactored them so that the farmers and the homeowners and the business owners all had to pay at least nominally some of the money that they may have won or taken away from the people who actually put the money into the bank in the first place, the depositors. And whenever people say, well, I can inflate my debts away, or this mortgage is a pretty good idea because I won't have to, I can pay it with useless dollars, they'll come back and they'll refactor it so that you'll have to pay it back anyway. So that's inflation. That's when money becomes worthless. The second example is after World War II, there was something called the Morgenthau Plan. And there was a plan basically to murder all the Germans. And they were going to starve them to death. And they went in, and how they did it was by denying Germans a currency for 3 years. And the economy just was terrible, and nothing happened. The only way you could make anything happen was if you bought something with a package of cigarettes or a single cigarette or a bottle of whiskey. Those were the units of currency, and it doesn't work. It was a deliberate attempt to murder people by denying them money. Money is extremely important. Everybody's heard about the German economic miracle which occurred after 1948. Well, the miracle was that a fellow named Franz Josef Strauss, who was a fellow Bavarian, as it turns out, had been named as the finance minister. He went into the building where they had printed up all of the currency, just a limited number of D-Mark, and he simply released them on a Saturday and a Sunday when the Americans weren't around, and against their express wishes. They wanted this currency to be kept out of sight. They didn't want it used. Every adult in Germany got 50 D-Mark. Within a week, there was an economy. Money was flowing. People were working. They were getting jobs. They were eating. Life was good. And that was the explosion of talent that took off because they finally had a currency to work with. When people say, hey, we're going to inflate the currency out of existence, that's potentially bad. And the other side is we're not going to have any money at all. That's even worse. And so with that, I'm going to open up the conversation. And with me today, we've got Dave Martin, our true, almost in-house expert on things financial, monetary, and psychosocial. Dave, welcome to the program. You have any takeoffs on anything having to do with the reserves, Federal Reserve, money, capitalism, socialism?
Well, to pick up on the stories where you were at there, money for many people is a very complex subject. If you try to understand what money is by reading the Wall Street Journal and by reading Federal Reserve, money supply reports and such, the average person will look at that and say, geez, this is just too complex for me, I'm out of it, we'll let the experts run the show.